to do in the remaining part of our term. So let me begin by saying that we've had a good engagement looking at the overwhelming mandate that was given to us by the people of Kenya. We did discuss this morning whether we overpromised, and it was very clear to us that we did not, that Kenya needed transformation. It needed something out of the ordinary. And that is what we have on offer from this administration. And let me just give you maybe 7 areas that are of concern and that are of priority and that have occupied the most part of this administration's push for transformation in Kenya. We are very well aware that transformation is not easy. It never was, and we never expected it to be easy. But transforming Kenya, we must. I will speak to 7 subjects that has been the subject of conversation in this gathering and the priority areas of this administration. Number 1 is the economy. We have assessed where we were in 2022. And we had a situation emerging from the shutdown of the economy as a result of COVID-19, a devastating drought followed by floods that had made the cost of living rise very high. Prices of unga were 240. We had 7 million Kenyans in the CRB. Our inflation was at 9.6%. Our exchange rate skyrocketed to about 165 shillings to the dollar. Our foreign exchange earnings went to a low of $6.5 billion, only 3 months of import cover. We had difficulties with supply of our fuel requirements, and our CBR was all the way to almost 14%, and treasury bills were trading at around 16%, and things were difficult. And we had to respond. We did commit that we would get the 7 million Kenyans that were in CRBs out, and we did. We did also commit that we would deal with the challenge of food supply, and we did. The situation today, I have told you what the situation was. The situation today, because of the interventions that we have carried out, is that inflation is down from 9.6 to 3.8. Our currency exchange is down from the high of 165 to 129 shillings to the dollar for the last 14 months. Our foreign exchange reserves, which were at 6.5, the low of $6.5 billion, an import cover of just 3 months, is now up to $10.9 billion, an import cover of close to 5 months. Treasury bills today trade from a high of 16. Now Treasury bills are trading at 8.5%. And also our CBR, as I told you, by the central bank, has come down from a high of almost 14%. Just I think last week or the week before, central bank announced a new central bank rate of 9.75%, down from what it was before. As a result, our economy has improved from being the 8th largest economy in Africa to being the 6th largest economy in Africa. When we told the country that we were going to stabilize the economy, we meant it, and by God's grace, the economy today is different from what it was then. But we also have discussed about what about the future? What happens from here? And it is our intention to continue to expand our interventions on managing expenditure and increasing our revenues. It is our intention, and the targets we have for the future is that we want to move our revenues as a percentage of GDP from 15, 16, 17%. We want to see whether we can take it to 19, 20%. That is our looking forward. We're also looking forward to ensuring that we maintain our foreign exchange reserves by supporting more exports of goods, of services, so that we can grow our balance of payment numbers. That is on the economy. Number two, on agriculture, we did commit to the country that we were going to undertake robust, far-reaching reforms in the agricultural sector. And as I have said, you know very well that we had an untenable situation where the cost of living was very high. The largest contributor, as you all know, to inflation and the cost of living is the cost of food. And it wasn't going to be possible to deal with the challenge of cost of living or cost of food without significantly transforming agriculture. So what did we do to deal with that situation that we had where agriculture was not supplying enough food? We had challenges of policies in that space. We had fraud on fertilizer and all the other interventions that were going on. And we had challenges of farmers getting adequate prices or the correct prices for their produce. So as an administration, we took 5 steps to transform the agricultural sector. Number one, we changed from subsidizing consumption and instead went to support production. That is why instead of subsidizing unga, we decided to subsidize fertilizer, because it makes the whole difference. We took the next step to get the correct data because the agricultural space didn't have any accurate data on any matter. So we undertook a robust process of collecting data on the agricultural sector, and thankfully we now have a database of 6.6 million farmers, complete with the crops they plant, the acreage of their land, and all other details that are required, including their details. The third issue is, apart from collecting data, we digitized the whole agricultural value chain to assist us eliminate fraud and corruption and theft that was prevalent, so that it undermined corruption, theft, and fraud, undermined delivery of government programs, even the subsidy program, even the fertilizer program. And as a result of the interventions that we have carried out in the agricultural sector, as per the commitment we made to the people of Kenya, we have, before I go there, I said the interventions we have carried out. The other intervention we carried out is to reform the coffee sector. The coffee sector had been taken advantage and actually taken hostage by cartels and interests. And it wasn't possible to sell your coffee where you wanted, because there was an incestuous relationship between brokers, millers, the people buying at the coffee exchange, that undermined the capacity of farmers to decide on their farming practice, because certain groups of individuals had monopolized that sector. One person had a license as a farmer. They were also millers, they were also brokers, and they were also the people who bought coffee at the coffee exchange. We have since dismantled those cartels, and we have changed the delivery model in the coffee value chain. We have also undertaken far-reaching reforms in the agricultural sector, in the sugar sector. As we all know, Kenya always, since I was Minister for Agriculture, we always went to seek for some commercial safeguards, because we were perennial importers for 30 years of sugar. And it was necessary to reform the sugar sector. This is a commitment we made. It is in our manifesto. And we had to take the business interests who had taken hostage the sugar sector head on. At some point, I had to tell them mambo ni matatu. It was not a threat. It was just an exercise in the course of reforming the sugar sector. We have since reformed the sugar sector. We have brought in the private sector to work with us, and we have stopped the tradition that existed for 20 years, where government always came in to pay farmers for sugarcane that was never supplied to government, or to pay workers that did not work for government. So, what is then the new situation? The new situation is that the interventions that we have made, from subsidizing fertilizer, digitizing farmers, reforming the sector, making sure that we have accurate data, getting rid of the cartels in the sugar, in the coffee, and in the other sectors. Today, we have a new situation. Our productivity has gone up. Productivity on maize, for example, has gone up from an average of 40, 43, 44 million bags a year to last year, 64 million bags. This year, we are expecting between 70 and 75 million bags. Coffee, the prices have moved up from an average of 65 to an average of 120. Some farmers are getting 130, 140, 150, because we have removed crooks and cartels that undermined farmer interests. The sugar sector is stepping up. Farmers will tell you now in the sugar sector, for the factories that we have already completed, farmers will now never be paid by government. They will be paid by the factories that they supply their sugarcane to. We have agreed with all the private sector players that farmers will be paid not in 6 months or 1 year, as has been the case before, but they will be paid every 7 days. Workers will be paid on time, and every year, sugarcane farmers will receive a bonus. We have already actualized that in one of the first factories, Mumias, that we started with. All the other formerly government-owned sugar mills will follow suit. By December this year, we intend to pay bonus to sugarcane farmers across the sugar mills that were formerly owned by government, because we have reformed that sector. But we still have some work to do. For the future, we are looking at how we can improve on the quality of data that we have. We are now bringing data on livestock so that we can facilitate the vaccination that is underway. We are enriching data on all the other crops. We have now started the journey towards doing more in the rice sector. We are going to do more in the cotton sector. We have just finalized the reform of the cotton sector, including finding a private sector player to run Rivertex and to provide offtake for cotton farmers, and to also supply high-quality seed to our cotton farmers. Let me mention about milk, as I talk about our livestock farmers, including dairy and beef. If you look at the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics numbers, earnings from our dairy sector, especially milk, has gone up from 35 billion shillings in 2022 to 59 billion shillings last year. Because the prices of milk has moved from an average of 30, 35 shillings to now an average of 45, 50 shillings a litre. The reform in that sector is putting more money, the agricultural sector that is putting more money in the pockets of farmers, whether it is in coffee, whether it is in tea, whether it is in sugarcane, whether it's in dairy. And we are looking at the future on how we can better pay our dairy farmers. We are now rolling out a whole industry around leather so that more farmers can have earnings. So we have a program for the future on what we need to do to enhance the progress that have already been achieved in the agricultural sector. The third item that we have discussed in this retreat is a reform that we committed to the people of Kenya of the education sector. We have undertaken far-reaching, transformational reforms in the education sector. What was the situation that confronted us? We had a chronic teacher shortage problem that was known to everybody. We had some measure of misunderstanding on the competence-based curriculum. And we had crippling debts facing our universities and institutions of higher learning. Many of you know that many universities were paying half salary to their lecturers. Migosi here will tell you that many universities had debts in the region of all our universities had debts in the region of 120 billion shillings. Many of them could hardly pay as you earn. They could not pay NSSF dues. They could not pay all the dues that were government. They could not pay their suppliers. And in fact, 23 universities were technically bankrupt. That was the situation we had. And it was beginning to affect the quality of our education, because without teachers, with confusion, with debt, and not enough resources provided to teach our children, naturally, education was beginning to suffer. And so we took up that challenge as was presented to us by the people of Kenya, and we made commitments. We made a commitment that we were going to hire 116,000 teachers to close the gap of teaching. So far, by January next year, we will have hired 100,000. Already 76,000 have been hired. And we are focused on making sure that the majority of these teachers go to schools that today have fewer teachers. You may want to know this, that we have an education system that is very unequal. We have schools that have 2, 3 teachers. We have schools that don't have a laboratory. We have schools that there are no adequate classrooms. And so it was necessary for us to intervene. So we've hired more teachers. We've built 23,000 new classrooms, 16,000 by the national government, 7,000 with our partners under CDF. We have streamlined the competence-based curriculum, working with the stakeholders. We went out to listen to Kenyans on how they wanted this to be, and we have now completed, and now it is no longer competence-based curriculum, it is now competence-based education and training. We have since changed the funding model. Rather than focusing on the university, we are now focusing on the student. So now we have a student-centered funding model that makes sure that every child in Kenya is treated fairly. And those who come from backgrounds that cannot support their education, they get affirmative action. And that is why we have students from poor families today under the new funding model who will get up to 90% government scholarship so that no child in Kenya is left behind. Of course, like any new funding model, we had challenges. Some of the students were placed in the wrong bands and many other issues, but we have reformed that sector. And the new funding model is now going into its third year. So we have because of the new funding model, we now have adequate resources going to our universities. Ask any vice chancellor. The old funding model almost destroyed our universities. Today, our universities are on sound footing. I had an occasion to go to Cooperative University, and I asked the Vice Chancellor directly, and he gave me a report that he could now pay his staff, lecturers and staff on time, in full. He could now pay his suppliers. He could pay government taxes. And he just asked me to continuously look at making sure that the means testing instrument was accurate so that we place students in the right bands. What do we intend to do going into the future on education? Number one, we still have schools that have no laboratories. And some of our students engage with the Bunsen burner for the first time during exams. So we're going to build 1,600 new laboratories, especially in rural schools and schools that do not have a laboratory today. Waziri, when is that exercise beginning? July. That is next, in the next few weeks. Number two, as I said, we're going to hire another 24,000 teachers. The money is in the budget this year. By January, they will be in class. And next year, we will hire the balance of the teachers so that we get to the 116,000 that we committed ourselves to the people of Kenya. And then we will also not just close the gaps on infrastructure or teacher numbers. We will also streamline and enrich the means testing instrument so that we make sure that every child is placed in the right band so that we don't disadvantage any child in Kenya. And then we will engage with the stakeholders going into the future to test the efficacy of the programs that we have worked on. let me go to the fourth item that informed. I told you I'm going to talk about 7 items. The fourth item that we have discussed this morning is matters to do with health. The people of Kenya told us, and we recorded faithfully, that health was destroying families. 1 million Kenyans every year sunk into poverty, statistics show, because of health-related costs. Many citizens sold their properties, their livestock, they used their savings for matters health. And progressively, health was becoming a privilege for those who can afford, leaving behind those who could not, to the vagaries and to the designs of fate. So, we looked at the situation and we made a commitment, and we all know that every person has in their phone WhatsApp groups formed to look for money to pay for hospital bills for a brother here, a relative there, a friend in another place, a stranger in another place. Members of parliament, leaders, MCAs, and everybody else in between can testify to this. So, what did we do? Before I talked about what did we do, the situation was that, we're doing harambes left, right, and center. NHIF had accumulated a debt of 32 billion shillings, owing so many facilities, and that debt was growing by 1 billion shillings every year. So it wasn't getting better, it was getting worse. And it was just a matter of time before NHIF would finally collapse. So we decided that this universal health coverage that successive administrations have been trying to implement, it was there, you all remember, in the NAC manifesto. It was there subsequently in the NASA manifesto. It was there in our Jubilee manifesto. It was there in the Azimio manifesto. We had it in the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. And we all agreed that it was something that needed to be done. And somebody needed to do it. And some administration needed to actualize it. After many failed attempts, we looked at it candidly and we said, we must provide a very firm foundation, a solid legal foundation, because it was a very heavy responsibility. So we had stakeholder engagements before the elections, we had stakeholder engagements after the election, and we finally came to the conclusion that it was not possible to reform the NHIF because it was fatally broken. And we decided that we needed to have a new health framework. So over the last 2 years and a bit, we passed 4 pieces of legislation to underpin our universal health coverage for the people of Kenya. We repealed the NHIF Act. We have rolled out primary healthcare fund, social healthcare insurance fund, the chronic illness, the chronic and critical illness fund, and the whole SHA program that now underwrites our health requirements. What does this new framework present? How is this new framework? What are the characteristics of the new framework? Number one, we have democratized and brought equity and burden sharing in the contributions towards health. In the past, it was just contributions by the people who have pay slips and jobs. Now we have made it possible for all Kenyans to contribute. We have also made it equitable. In the past, poor people contributed 10%, minimum 500 shillings to social insurance. Those of us with better earnings, we contributed 0.something%. So the difference between 10% and 0.something% wasn't right, and it wasn't equitable. So we decided that it was time to give equity. So everybody for social insurance now pays 2.75%. So we have brought it down for the vulnerable, the mama mbogas, the borders who are paying 10%. Now they are paying a quarter of what they were paying, 2.75%, and provided equity for all of us. Number three, we have removed the manual system and digitized health from admission, through treatment, through surgery, all the way to discharge is now on a digital platform. Because the manual system was a recipe and a haven for crooks and criminals to steal from the fund. In fact, a big failure of the NHIF was largely contributed by fraud and corruption. We all know of the history on the incidences. We found out that under NHIF, it was possible to amputate one person 10 times. And that begs the question, how many legs did this person have? Under the new arrangement, if you carry out 2 amputations, the system will not accept a third one because it will show that you have 2 legs, both of them have been cut, so you have nowhere else to. It was also true, as we all know, that there were small hospitals, like the one we had somewhere in Kino, that were carrying out more surgeries than what was happening in Kenyatta. Yet they were on some 3rd floor of some building. We also know that there were facilities that had more accountants than nurses because they were not treating nobody, they were gaming the system. We have now closed down, how many facilities was it? We have now closed down 800 facilities that were gaming the system. And that has been necessitated because we have digitized the whole system. It's no longer possible to cheat the system. And therefore, apart from enabling everybody to participate, giving an opportunity for the people who are self-employed to have a health insurance, the people who are not employed to have a health insurance, digitizing the whole system, making sure that we have equitable contribution, we have also made it possible that when you register today in SHA, you are eligible to be treated today. In the past, under NHIF, you needed to wait for 3 months. And many people ask us, supposing after the 3 months, what will have happened if I was sick? Do I have to postpone the illness? So we have made it possible under the new social health insurance for beneficiaries to benefit instantly on registration. So, as a result, we have eliminated fraud, we have enhanced efficiency, we have enhanced accountability, and Kenyans today believe more than they have done in the past on matters healthcare. As a result, the numbers speak for themselves. Where we had 7 million registered members under NHIF, today we have 23 million Kenyans registered under SHA. And for your information, 50,000 Kenyans register on average every day. We've had a high of 90, what was the highest number we registered in a day? 93,000 Kenyans is the highest that registered in one day. But on average, 50,000. Over the weekends, they come down to 30,000, but on average, 50,000. And the numbers are counting because Kenyans now know that when you register, number one, you have access for free to level 1, level 2, level 3, and part of level 4. And then you have access when you make your contribution to level 5, level 6. Number 2, SHA has now paid 3.6 million for 3.6 million Kenyans under the Primary Health Fund and for 2.1 million Kenyans under SHIF, a total of 5.7 million Kenyans have benefited from our new healthcare program. We have paid to facilities, faith-based, private, public, over the last 8 months. I'm giving you statistics over the last 8 months. In 8 months, SHA has treated 5.7 million Kenyans, and we have paid 49.2 billion Kenya shillings. 6.2 billion was paid last week. The transformation going on in our health care landscape is phenomenal. we believe that by the end of this, by the 1-year anniversary of SHA, we will have paid 3 times more than NHIF could pay in 1 year. That is the kind of transformation we are talking about. Already, at 49 billion shillings, NHIF used to pay an average of between 20 billion and 25 billion a year. In 8 months, we have almost doubled what NHIF used to pay in a whole year. That is what transformation looks like, in my opinion. What are we planning to do going into the future? We intend to get every Kenyan and their dependents registered in SHA. We are rolling out a national campaign to make sure that every Kenyan understands that it is necessary for them to be registered, because it gives us the opportunity, government at both levels, it gives us the opportunity to plan for our health. It gives us the opportunity to know how many people are in which facility, so that we can provide the right number of staff, the correct number of equipment, and also the adequate number of medical commodities, including drugs. So we are going to carry out a robust campaign as number 1. Number 2, working with counties, we are now rolling out equipment, provision of equipment under different frameworks, one for fee-for-service, another one we are going to pay over time, and other services are going to be purchased outright. We have now an agreement with suppliers between the counties, the national government, and the suppliers for delivery of equipment to make this service that we now have the resources to pay for available. And number 2, we are completing the reform around KEMSA. We have worked with our county governments, and we have secured their concurrence that going into the future, drugs will not be supplied to stores in county headquarters. Drugs will leave KEMSA and go direct to facilities. We have also agreed with them that as facilities, as SHA is paying for treatment, the component of payment that is as a result of drugs will be paid direct to KEMSA, to make sure that drugs do not run out in facilities because they have not been paid for. And I must commend county governments for their immense contribution to this program, because this is a program we share with them. The 5th item that we discussed this morning, is it the 4th or the 5th? The 5th item that we discussed this morning is matters to do with our digital superhighway, the whole space around digitizing government. As you're all aware, we have moved the digitization process from about just under 360 government services that were online. We have now digitized 20,000 government services. We have moved payments to government from cash and other forms onto the e-Citizen platform. We have brought more transparency into payments. We've brought more accountability into government revenue. And e-Citizen has moved from collecting about 60 million shillings a day. Now e-Citizen is collecting between 700 million shillings a day to 1 billion shillings a day. And it is now possible for government to know who is paying, where, for what, in what manner. We have a robust program on digitizing government and leveraging from technology and using it to make delivery of service efficient and also expanding opportunities for commerce and opportunities for employment. We have a robust program on Jitume labs, ICT hubs, and a whole digital superhighway. We're now working, we changed the strategy from delivering internet using trunks. We are now leveraging on Kenya Power grid lines, and the process is moving faster so that we can digitize government more. And as a result, I have told you, we now have more government services available online. You can pay for those government services online. You can acquire or you can interrogate government services online. We are collecting more revenue of government online. But we are also still looking at the future. What do we need to do for the future? We need to finish the last mile, and that is the assignment that is now available to us going into the future. We need to complete the digitization of government so that no service, there are a number of services that are still not on board. We are asking ourselves why. And that's the question we intend to answer in the coming days, weeks, and months. Number two, there are some institutions that still don't want to pay on e-Citizen because they have things to hide. There are some institutions that have taken us to court. We will be engaging with our primary and secondary school heads who have refused to pay school fees on e-Citizen. They have refused parents. They want to continue writing those receipt books on exercise books. And we are telling them the era of transparency is here. Parents should insist on paying on e-Citizen so that, and I want to thank schools that have agreed because they believe in transparency to get parents to pay on a digital platform. And many other institutions that are still out there. We will go after all of them so that is our exercise for the future. We also need to complete the construction of the 1,450 ICT hubs. We are not doing very well there. We are at about 200 and something. So we will be engaging our members of parliament because they are our partners. The Honorable Kabogo here and his team at ICT We'll be working with them. We are also developing networks to be able to get more computers, because we need close to 150,000 computers to run our ICT hubs across Kenya. So that is going to be our assignment going forward, to work with partners to be able to get computers, and we are looking at possibilities of manufacturing those computers here in Kenya so that servicing becomes easy, and also create local expertise for us developing this space now going into the future. And we will be looking at how we can do this from a whole of government approach. The sixth issue that I want to talk about is our micro, small, and medium enterprises. As I told you, we had 7 million Kenyans that were, condemned by CRBs, credit rating bureaus, and they couldn't transact. They couldn't do much because they were rated as very dangerous people. We worked with the MNOs, and we managed to get these Kenyans out of the net. And the reason why these Kenyans were all in CRBs was because they were paying interest rates of up to 300%. We have since changed and provided what we committed to the people of Kenya as a hustler fund. And hustler fund gives credit to borrowers at 8% per year, down from 300% to 8% per year. We have lent 65 billion shillings under that framework. And we have improved the credit ratings of citizens. A presentation was presented to us here today that Hustler Fund has become the nursery school for creditworthiness. That is when people discover that being creditworthy is necessary. And as a result, we are now transitioning 1.6 million of these borrowers. Now they can be lent to by banks because they have established a credit history that is credible. We are looking at some of the graduates of Hustler Fund. Today, we have a new product called the Bridge Loan, where those who have established a good credit rating can now borrow up to 150,000 shillings without any security of whatever nature, just on account of their creditworthiness or credit history. And again, on the Hustler Fund platform, we are now rolling out the Nyota program with the World Bank, where the intention, and my good friend Oparanya there, with his PS, Madam Mangeni, and my good friend Jacobs, there, the PS for Youth, are working around the clock with our partners in the World Bank, because we have agreed that many of these small business people that have managed to graduate into business enterprises, we are picking 100,000 of them and giving them, together with the World Bank, a grant of 50,000 shillings each one of them. And we will be spending 5 billion shillings to support young people, women. And we have made sure that it covers every part of the country. 70 small business people will be identified in every ward in Kenya to be beneficiaries of this program as we upscale the micro, small, and medium enterprise space into creditworthiness and improving their businesses. And finally, what we discussed this morning and afternoon is matters to do with the young people of our nation and jobs. We all agree as a nation that creating jobs or unemployment is a problem that we must solve. We have discussed unemployment for many years. Every election cycle we are talking about unemployment. But we all know that jobs cannot happen. They must be created. Some deliberate, intentional policies must be put in place to create jobs. And we have interrogated our plan on creating jobs. And we have the following to say. We did make a policy decision that we were going to roll out our housing program. And our housing program, apart from it being a constitutional imperative under Section 43 of the Constitution, apart from it being about dignified living, and having the history that we do, that the Housing Act was passed for the first time 60 years ago. The same time Malaysia passed their housing law, the same time Singapore passed their housing law, we passed our housing law. But today, the situation in Singapore, Malaysia, and all the others is different from the situation in our country. While 90-something% of the citizens of Singapore are home owners, 7 million people in Kenya live in slums. And we only have 30,000 mortgages for people to own homes. That is the difference between transformation and the lack of it. So, and as we all know, as the people of Kenya, we have discussed matters of unemployment, but we haven't quite provided credible policy interventions that create known numbers of jobs. So this time round, as an administration, we decided to have 4 different programs. One is housing. So when we talk about housing, it's not just about getting people out of slums. It is not about getting people who are in the middle class to own homes instead of renting them. It is not just about decent living. It's about jobs. We have rolled out, as you all know, our housing program. And today we have 250,000 young people working, women and men working in our housing program. We have 150,000 houses under construction. 11,000 are ready. We will be giving them out in the course of the year, and they will continue to be ready as we go. And we are continuing to advertise. We have a pipeline of 700,000 jobs, 700,000 housing units that are in the pipeline. Already 150,000 are under construction. The others are in different stages. Some are undergoing design, others are undergoing very different stages in our plan. We see this sector continuing to be a growth sector. The numbers working in affordable housing can only increase because as of 2022, we had a shortage of 2 million houses. And therefore, this affordable housing program, even at the rate of 200,000 houses every year, we need between 15, 20, 25 years to be able to catch up with the deficit that exists in affordable housing. So we will continue to see new jobs in the affordable housing space of different categories. Architects are doing their part, engineers are doing their part, masons, carpenters, plumbers, and many others, and everybody in between are making their contribution. It is our intention that we will get more Kenyans to own homes and to own a piece of what is Kenya, and that we will remove more people from our slums and create decent livelihoods. It is true that if you go to any city today in Kenya, whether it is Garissa, Wajir, and I was there, Kiambu, Mombasa, Kitui, Machakos, Kisumu, Homa Bay, name it, Eldoret, Nakuru, the largest estate today in any city in Kenya is affordable housing. We have 250,000 people working. We are building accompanying infrastructure in hostels, markets, institutional housing. Affordable housing is changing the landscape of Kenya in a very dramatic and significant way. And this is just 2 years. 2 years. Tell me what's going to happen in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You will not recognize this country. That is the reality of transformation. We know that it was difficult to do this initially, but I think the people of Kenya are beginning to appreciate that this was not about talk. This was not just about promise. This was about what we wanted to do to transform our nation. Apart from affordable housing, and we are seeing results, and I am confident that the foundation we are laying for the transformation of Kenya will make sure that this nation changes for good. We also decided that we wanted to take advantage of the single most important asset we have as a country, our human capital. If there is an asset we have as a nation, it is the Kenyan people and their talents and knowledge and expertise. The best human capital we have from this continent comes from Kenya. Ask anybody. Minimal supervision, very good English, you know. And that is the comment that comes from everywhere, from every employer, anywhere in the world. So, this jewel that we have, we want to not only use it to drive our own development, but we also want to make a global workforce out of this very important asset that we have. And therefore, we provided pathways and avenues for Kenyans, not just to work at home, but to work as a global, professional workforce. And we made a deliberate intervention. So what did we do? What was the situation? The situation then was we had agents, about 1,600 agents, who had corrupted the whole place, stealing from this one, taking people to weird places, you know, doing all manner of wrong things. We didn't have a coordinated government approach. We hadn't signed bilateral labor agreements with where these Kenyans were going. So we had confusion in that space. So what did we do? First, I created a department for diaspora to work with the Ministry of Labor to ensure that Kenyans living abroad are attended to by the government of Kenya. Number two, we streamlined the National Employment Authority. And we deregistered close to 1,000 agents whose conduct suffered integrity challenges. We removed them from participating in that space. We also digitized the space on labor mobility and demanded that all the jobs that are available to Kenyans be put on a portal where government can see and those seeking opportunities can see. Today, you have it on that portal and you can see it for yourself. We also decided that we are going to support the Kenyans who want to go abroad. If they don't have money for a passport or a ticket, we're going to support them. So we instructed the National Youth Fund. We have now also brought on board Uwezo Fund. I hope the agreements have been concluded, Matamangeni, completed. Uwezo Fund, so that Kenyans who have been given an opportunity to work outside Kenya can, with ease, find their way out. And we now have a database of Kenyans going to work abroad. Imagine, we didn't have a database of Kenyans going to work abroad. We didn't even know who was working where. And that is why we just got reports of so-and-so is in distress, some other person there is in distress, and we didn't have them in our database. So today it is mandatory for those going to work outside Kenya that we must know them, we must know where they are going to work, we must validate that the job that they are going to do exists, and we must know who the employer is. So, as a result, over the last 2 years, 400,000 Kenyans have found their way into jobs outside Kenya. Let me repeat, because sometimes we say things and people are wondering. 400,000 Kenyans have gone to work outside Kenya. And they are contributing to our development. They are sending money to Kenya. In fact, in the supplementary budget, we have added 100 million shillings. I hope, Kipto, we did that. Mbadi, did you sign it off? Yes. Mbadi has, in this supplementary budget, just for the next 1 month, we have provided 100 million shillings to youth fund to facilitate people who want to go and work outside Kenya. The third item that, as an administration, we have rolled out as a policy, this is deliberate. You know, housing is deliberate. Labor mobility is deliberate. Is digital jobs. We have rolled out a comprehensive program with our Jitume labs. Every TVET and some other institutions today have a Jitume lab where students in our TVETs take 2-3 hours, they work online, they earn money. I told you about the ICT hubs that we are working on. We have 280 already built. We have another 1,200 to go. That's the space we need to up our game. But already 180,000 Kenyans are working on the digital space. And the numbers speak to it. You know, remittances that come from Kenyans working abroad and Kenyans working on the digital platform has gone up by $1 billion in the last 2 years. Together, will tell you, our remittance was $4 billion. By February this year, it was $4.95 billion. Remittance. That is money coming from Kenyans either working abroad or working online. So, again, deliberate. And there is more that is happening in the internet. There are more people who are doing serious business, earning serious money in the internet than the pornography and the insults and all the other things that are going on there. There is more. And that is where we should be going. And we are looking at other interventions. We have what we call climate works. Again, because of the climate challenges and what we need to do about our environment. We are again rolling out another 110,000 opportunities for Kenyans to work in the climate work space, to work with us. Already 20,000 in Nairobi City are onto that course. And we've just advertised opportunities for 110,000. and they will begin working from when Alice and Hinga, when are they? 1st of July. So from 1st of July, we will have another 110,000 young people coming to work in the climate works space. And we're looking at what we can also do in the space around value addition and agro-processing. And so going into the future, we will want to improve. What are we going to do going into the future around the job creation program? We will step up our housing program. We will also expand the number of bilateral labor agreements. The Honorable Musalia Mudavadi here is leading our team in signing more bilateral labor agreements with more countries to give us more opportunities for Kenyans to work abroad. We are scaling up some of the bilateral labor agreements that were signed before, so that we now have skilled workers, professional workers. That is our next trajectory, so that we can renegotiate some of the bilateral labor agreements and ensure that professional cadres can be accommodated. We are also working on making sure that more Kenyans can speak more than one language. German, Chinese, French, Spanish. That's our next horizon, and the Ministry of Diaspora is working with different institutions. I am happy that KMTC, for example, is beginning to teach. Is that correct, Mudoni?
Yes, sir. We are teaching French, German, Amharic, and Arabic.
Right. So that is the next horizon. We're going to make Kenyans truly global citizens, that they can work anywhere. So that is the next horizon we are working on. We are also looking at our special economic zones, making sure that we expand the capacities in our special economic zones, expanding capacities in our county aggregation and industrial parks for processing, for value addition, and that is why we will be removing taxes in this budget on packaging material for both coffee, tea, and other commodities, so that instead of exporting our tea and coffee, largely tea on sacks or in sacks, we will be exporting them packed in packages that go to the supermarket. That is a space that we are working on. We are also looking at expanding new markets for our products, so that as we do value addition and agro-processing, we'll be looking at new markets. As you know, we have last year the economic partnership agreement we signed with the 26 countries or 27 countries in the EU came into force. We have the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi just came from FOCAC meeting between Africa and China, and you remember I was in China a few months ago, and I did agree with the Chinese president that we need to open markets. And I'm very happy that progress has been made subsequent to my meeting in China, that now our continent will have duty-free or tariff-free access to a 1 billion people market. So we are expanding markets for our macadamia, our avocados, our tea, our coffee, because we have premier products that we can drive. So I told you there are 7 areas we have already assessed from this morning, and I thought we should brief good people from the media and Kenyans on what this cabinet retreat is about. And just to assure us that we just crossed over the midterm, and we now have an energized, broad-based government, and we are confident that with the broader goodwill, with a broader infusion of ideas and synergies created, we can accelerate the momentum for the delivery of the transformation of Kenya. Let me repeat this for the avoidance of doubt. The focus of this administration and this team is not the next election. The focus is the transformation of Kenya. And putting a firm foundation for the transformation of our nation into the next generation. That is our commitment, and that is our focus. Thank you very much.